Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this session of PCST Visual Presentations. My name is Marina Joubert, and I will be chairing this session today. My day job is a science communication researcher at Stellenbosch University in South Africa. I'm really looking forward to this session today because we are talking about innovative approaches to science communication. There are so many possibilities these days, and I'm really looking forward to what our panelists will share with us today. Each of them will have only 3 minutes. It's a really tough task, so things will move fast. But at the end, there will be time for questions and discussion, and also all their presentations are available via the PCST conference platform for at least a month after the conference. For you as the audience members, I would love you to participate in 2 ways. The first is post your questions or comments in the Q&A or in the chat function. We will come back to as many of those as possible. Also, please keep a note of the presentations that you really enjoy, but you have to make a note of the speaker's name, because at the end I will run a quick poll and you have to vote for the speaker that you most enjoyed or the talk that you most enjoyed according to the name of the presenter. And the winning presentations from each of these visual sessions will be repeated later during the PCST conference. So these visual sessions are a wonderful warm-up, sort of getting the momentum going of PCST2020+1. Our 2021 conference, and we've got a wonderful month ahead of us of PCST engagements. So I'm going to get things going by inviting Emma Berry to kick off our session. And she's from the UK, and her title has got an interesting start, research, huh? So over to you, Emma.
Thank you very much. So I'll just share my screen here. Hopefully you'll be able to all see it okay. Perfect. Is that okay? Can people see me? Fantastic. So thank you very much for inviting me here to speak. My name's Emma, and I'm going to talk today about some of the work we've been doing in NHS Grampian to improve clinical research awareness. So NHS Grampian is based up in the northeast of Scotland, and we started this project back in 2018. So we were given some funding to create a website initially, but we thought it was important to get an idea of other things that we could do alongside the website, because obviously not everyone has internet access. And we also wanted to get an idea of what people already knew about clinical research. So we started off doing a survey with the public, and then we spent some time asking other people, both members of the public and NHS staff, what they thought would be important to include on this website. And then finally, throughout the project design phase, we thought it was important to seek help from others. So that was people that were both internally part of the NHS and also external as well. So that led to the launch of the website in 2019. And you can see here the website, grampianclinicalresearch.com. So at the top, there is a screenshot of the website, and you can see up here, there's little bars that you can click off to. So the answers page is effectively an FAQ section where we have frequently asked questions about clinical research, and there's a bit of text, but we also have videos from different perspectives that people can watch. And we have a Trials Near You page. So that Trials Near You page is effectively a database of studies that are running in Grampian. So you can click onto the title of the study and it will take you to their website so you can find out a little bit more. And then we also have the events and the news page there. So down here on the homepage, we have this clinical research game. So that's a screenshot of the game there. The game is effectively different types of clinical research studies. So for example, observational or a drug study, and you can play as either a participant or as a researcher, and it will break down the study in a simple way. As well as that, on the homepage, we also have an animation video. And again, that animation video just gives a very simple overview of what clinical research is and why we do it. So alongside the website, we also created these leaflets that you can see down here. And they are effectively a text version of the answers page. And we also created these posters to go up in the hospital areas so people can access the website while they're waiting for their appointments. So since the launch of the website, we found it's been really helpful to monitor and plan what content we're putting out there. We found that social media and engagement events are our biggest drivers for views to the website. So it's been really important that we see what works well and we plan ahead for that. We also have found that the website's been really great for staff engagement. There hasn't been the same channels for staff to celebrate those little wins before. So staff have really taken to sending us their good news that we've been able to put on the website. And then we've also created various items that we can take along to events and share with people. So alongside a local business, we created these Medical Research Matters pins and a clinical research nurse pin. And we have also created videos about COVID vaccine studies in Aberdeen and other little bits as well. So thank you very much for listening to me today. If you would like some more information, you can also visit our social media platforms. Thank you very much.
Emma, thank you very, very much for that dose of inspiration. I think there's a lot to come back to and discuss. I would love to know more about the game and about many other things you mentioned. So hopefully we will have time for that. But people can also, of course, engage with you via the website, I'm sure. So that was really brilliant. Antonio Bodano from Italy is up next. And I see the words virtual reality and physics in his title. So over to you, Antonio.
Thank you. Okay, you share my screen. Okay, today I'll describe you our science communication strategy in nuclear and particle physics with the support of a virtual reality application. Just a brief introduction to show you the difficulty that we have when we speak about nuclear and particle physics. First of all, is that it's not possible to observe particle with eye. The research see them using a histogram or a graph. And virtual reality, it's not similar to physics, nuclear physics. It's very attractive, and we have a virtual reality application related to a real experiment, a real particle experiment. That the name is BER2. BER2 is an experiment that is hosted in Japan, in particular at the Keck laboratory at Tsukuba, where a particle collider named Super Keck B that collide electrons and positrons, and around a point where the particle collides, it's built it's bit the detector of BER2 experiment. What we have done, we have rebuilt each part of the detector using a three-dimensional image, and we have put this image inside a virtual reality application. The user that use our application can see it's put inside this detector. But we have also put in the wear application the particles. The motion and the particle interaction is driven by a particular and dedicated simulation software. It's an advanced simulation software that our research using, for example, for analyzing the real data coming from the experiment. We have used with this software, simulation software, we have create a particular events that leverage, for example, for dedicated public from student to generic public, and for support the university physics and nuclear courses. Okay, in conclusion, we have this application, and with this application we can show a particle. You can see particle inside an experiment. We can show how this type of experiment works, and we can show the interaction that the particle done when it's collided with the detector. Okay, I have finished, and thank you very much for your attention. And here you can find our contact. Thank you.
Thank you, Antonio. I think that's a very nice example of, an innovative approach. Of course, the virtual reality has been around a while, but I think it's one of those tools that's still rare for people to encounter, and there's still a lot that I think we can develop in that field. So that is a really interesting context as well, an application that you've shown and you've shared with us. So next we go over to Rita Campos, and her topic sounds equally intriguing: rethinking cities through the eyes of young children. So over to you, Rita.
Thank you. So I'll share my screen. So I'll say that I'm a biologist that now doing research in science communication and non-formal education, and I'm particularly interested in working with the younger children, so children between 3 and 10 years old. And this particular project, well, this is a non-funding project, so it's going slowly and now complicated with COVID, but it started with these 3 main observations: that humans are more and more concentrated in cities and so disconnected from the environment that we evolved on. And there's a growing body of literature interested in the links between urban biodiversity, that are usually referred to as urban green spaces, and human health and well-being. And also acknowledging these young children as inhabitants of the city. How can we include their knowledge of the city and their perception of the city in city planning, city management, and the construction of knowledge about the city? So I started trying to understand what are their perception of the city, what are their significant spaces, how they relate to the city, what they prefer, and then use all this information to understand how we could foster their engagement. So this is a first phase of the project, was pre-COVID. Now we cannot go to the schools. There were preschool children, the age between 5 and 6, and this was sort of a deliberative science communication project. So I was interested in hearing the children, hearing what they wanted to see, and mostly these photo elicitation interviews. So there was a collection of photographs that I took from in the different parts of the city, printed in Kappa lines so they can manipulate at ease, and it was basically asking them to tell me what were the photographs they liked the most and the least, and why. And these were the 3 and the 4 more chosen. And you can see there's a repetition because when doing a preliminary analysis of the content of the interviews, the children group their choices into main categories. So aesthetic values and emotional values. So the repeated photograph were either chosen because there were they recognize the space where the photograph is taken as a place where they go with the families, with friends, where they play. But also some children didn't like the photograph because there were fallen trees or trees without leaves. So there was these 2 categories. Surprisingly, there was almost no direct references to nature or to the green spaces. They seem to be very well adapted to the building environment, and they see the city as a place for multiple opportunities to establishing meaningful relationships. So they go to walk with family, they encounter friends, and they relate also to architectonic features, so buildings and squares and roads. So this is just a little bit of the work. This is some framework of what I've managed to do already, and thank you very much for listening.
Rita, thank you very much for sharing that with us. I think it's always fascinating and much more difficult maybe than what we expect to work with children. But I'm also actually at the moment involved in a project with young children, and it's really so rewarding and gives you so many new perspectives. So I'm really interested to find about that. So at this stage, I see we've got a really nice group of delegates that have joined us, and I just want to remind everyone who maybe came in a little bit later that you can put questions in the Q&A, and also keep in mind, keep a record of the talks you really like, because there'll be a quick poll at the end. We'll have to vote for the speakers that you really enjoyed. So we're going to go back to Italy now, where Laura Dariciaello is going to talk to us about astrotourism, a topic that's also quite hot in South Africa. So I'm looking forward to that, Laura.
Yes, please enjoy my video here, which is my presentation.
Have you ever heard of astronomical tourism in the city center of the Italian cities? Well, Astronomical tourism is not only the valorization of rural areas thanks to their clear starry sky, or the enhancement of structures and places astronomically oriented. Astronomical tourism is also a kind of cultural tourism to make experience of astronomy and of its role throughout the time in the life of a city. In the last years, INAF, Istituto Nazionale di Astrofisica, which is the Italian body in charge of performing research in astrophysics and space physics, experimented some initiatives in the field of astrotourism, exploring new ways to communicate astronomy to various audiences. Among these initiatives, the publication of the series of astronomical guides of Italian cities like Padua and Florence, named Second Star to the Right and Straight On, in collaboration with Babble Illustration, which is an agency in Padua specialized in communicating science by creative projects. In Palermo, astronomy has been everywhere since ancient times. Many of these elements were designed for public utility to meet the needs of the society of the time, and they are signs of the importance of astronomy in the life of the city, and show how much science and how much culture has been and is currently created in Palermo. Thanks to this guide, tourists will have the opportunity to explore Palermo under a different perspective. Following 5 astronomical itineraries in the heart of the city, they will discover that astronomy has not only inspired art with its beauty, but also had a great impact on culture, society, religion, art, history, and on other sciences. The Guide of Palermo is based on more than 30 years of research in the field of cultural astronomy, and in particular on themes related to measurement of time, of our scientific consultant, Professor Maria Luisa Toscano. During the pandemic, in the last edition of the European Researchers' Night, we offered a preview of one of the itineraries of the Guide of Palermo through an astronomical walk held in a virtual manner. The ongoing pandemic suggested us to explore the possibility to equip the guide with some ICT devices like augmented reality or virtual reality, to give the opportunity to remotely enjoy the guide and to allow access to additional resources and updated information. My name is Laura Dariciaello and I'm a technologist at INAF. Don't hesitate to contact me for further information on this subject.
I hope you enjoyed the video.
Oh, Laura, thank you so much for transporting us for a few minutes to beautiful Palermo in Italy. I love that country so much, and it was really inspirational, and the beautiful images that you shared in your video. I think that was really something special. And of course, thinking about astrotourism and the way you do it, I think there's some really good ideas there. Thank you so much for the effort in putting together that video for us. So next, I'm very happy to welcome a fellow African to the panel, Patience Kayuka. She's going to also talk about virtual reality, but in a very different application. So Patience, over to you.
Thank you very much. Let me share my screen. Hello, everyone. The goal of my project was to pilot the use of virtual reality video of research laboratories as a public engagement tool in high schools in Kilifi, coastal Kenya. So virtual reality is increasingly being recognized as a powerful tool that has potential to revolutionize science education in schools. And this is because of the immersiveness of virtual reality, and it's been argued that it can stimulate learning due to strong visualization, comprehension, and retention. However, it's important to note that virtual reality is a relatively new concept in Africa. To the best of my knowledge, there is very limited use of VR for STEM education and science engagement. So the overall goal of my project was to improve appreciation of science in the society using virtual reality, and specifically to expose young children to research laboratories through VR and to test their experiences or acceptability of VR technology. So our approach was we invited a group of students to our research laboratories at the Kemri Wellcome Trust, and we gave them a guided tour of the research laboratories. Thereafter, we split the students into groups and we asked them a series of questions specifically to assess their understanding of the things and what they had observed in the laboratory and what they found relatable. That discussion was important for us as we used it to produce a script of the research laboratories, and we used that to produce a 360-degree video. After producing the video, we loaded it into VR headsets and we took it to different schools. By students wearing these VR headsets, they were transported to our research laboratories and they could understand the kind of work we do. So these are pictures of the field work we did in different schools. And just have a quote here from one student. He said, "We like the virtual reality video because it makes you feel like you're there in the lab." And that was the essence of this goal, to give of this project, to text the laboratories to students and to have them experience what it means to work in a research laboratory. Thank you very much. I would like to acknowledge the following people who supported the project. Thank you.
So, Patience, thank you for that sharing of your project. Very, very interesting. And thank you very much so far to everybody for sticking to the time and for really giving us so much information in these really powerful and packed presentations. I'm sure there's going to be questions. Please, I will invite the delegates to start thinking about questions because we're definitely going to have time at the end. So we go next to Germany, Alina Loth in Berlin. And I had a sneak preview of her presentation. I'm not going to tell you what it's about, except to say that I've never personally seen a science communication presentation about this specific topic or this specific tool. So I'm sure people will find it very interesting. Alina, over to you.
Thank you very much, and a very warm welcome from chilly Berlin today. Just share my screen quickly. There we go. So my name is Alina Loth, and today I would like to take you all into the world of internet culture, visual communication, and maybe also a new way of research engagement. So let's get started. I don't know about you, but when I think about digital content, I immediately feel slightly overwhelmed at the moment. I think intensified by the pandemic, I definitely feel digital fatigue is creeping up on me almost on a daily basis at the moment. Information is everywhere, and it's sometimes quite challenging to focus on what is important in the digital information jungle. May I introduce you to the average attention span an internet user has for digital content? According to a study by Lawrence Green, we focus for an incredible 15 seconds on digital content. Of course, this doesn't mean that we can't focus longer, but it requires concentration. If we compare this little window of opportunity with some of the common forms of research communication, the issue becomes quite apparent. The average time required to read a research article, for example, is 1 hour. Blog articles need roughly 6 minutes in comparison. An online seminar usually takes at least 45 minutes, and a YouTube video on average runs for 15 minutes. So what does this mean? While we all can focus on all these things, we do miss the opportunity to share our content with all the scrollers, people who are not intrinsically motivated to engage with the content. Luckily, there's a medium that can fill that niche. May I introduce the animated GIF? But what are animated GIFs and why do we all love them? The graphics interchange format was created in 1987 as an image file format with additional support for animation sequences. Similar to emojis, they became a fundamental element of our digital communication. Their endless looping repetition allows them to relay multiple levels of meaning. They have become a part of the standard functionality on almost all social media sites and almost all instant messaging apps. GIFs are a powerful tool to gain attention and lead it towards more in-depth information. They are an opportunity for us to reach new audiences and to anchor research-related content into our communication culture. They can help to inspire and inform. They are very flexible visual tools suitable for almost any audience. So with the University of Cambridge Very Shorts, we supported the first co-production of research-focused GIFs between 7 researchers and creators. The finished animations are diverse in their style, topic, and content complexity. What them all combines is a new and very explorative process of research storytelling, pretty much at its extreme. So if you're curious, I hope you have a chance to check out all the research animations that are on the PCST website. And I'm happy to answer any questions and would be delighted to stay in touch with all of you.
So it was interesting to me, Alina, that you mentioned emojis alongside GIFs, because I also recently, during the pandemic, we saw, of course, an explosion in the use of emojis as well. So a question that I would love to ask all of you to think about, and we can come back to it at the end, is how the researchers feel that you work with about these very innovative tools, whether it's GIFs or virtual reality or, astrotourism, maybe just some idea of the views of the researchers about the, the value or the usefulness of these different ways of engaging the public. So we're going to go to Isabel Mendoza next. She is talking about, on behalf of the Global Plant Council in Spain, and about how to bring plant science closer to society. Over to you, Isabel.
Hello, my name is Isabel Mendoza. Thanks for having me. The Global Plant Council is a coalition of plant science organizations that gathers currently 27 members, from professional societies to research centers, acting as a central plant science hub at a global level. We want to promote plant science across borders and also disciplines, from agriculture to plant molecular biology and everything in between. Our target audience are mostly plant scientists, plant science enthusiasts, and plant science students. The Global Plant Council didn't start its online presence until 2014, with a website that was tailor-made, with a very fixed design, and with the aim to make it very easy to manage and stable, a blog and a Twitter account. It was decided that most of the content will be produced via republishing plant science-related press releases, and by the end of that year, we surpassed the 1,400 followers. During 2015 and 2016, the GPC continued to add social media channels, and by the end of 2016, we surpassed the 6,000 followers and reached almost 150,000 social media views monthly. In 2018, an evaluation of the communication strategy showed that this strategy needed to change, including the revamping of the website and rethinking the publication page, both on the website and on social media. Plus, it was decided to start a number of activities, especially addressed to early career researchers, that I will briefly present at the end. And this new strategy included the launch of a new website, 100 WordPress based, bear fruit by the end of 2019, shooting up the numbers of followers and social media views. During 2020 and 2021, at least until now, the growth, both regarding followers and views, has continued to be strong. Regarding the Early Career Researcher International Network, or ECRI, this is a set of activities addressed to early career researchers organized on 4 axes to help them with job hunting, grant searching, and acquire science communication and networking skills. We have a long list of activities that can be read here, either here on the slide or on the poster. And I just want to single out our annual ScienceCom contest because the 2021 edition is currently open. That's all from my side. Thank you so much for your attention. I'm open for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Isabel. Certainly, also very interesting presentation, and I'm sure there's going to be some questions for you as well. The I see we already have some questions in the Q&A, and I invite all our delegates to post more questions there. We'll get back to those. Our second to last speaker is Adriana Postioni, once again from Italy. It looks like something more practical. It's about a DIY low-cost kit. It's got to do with a rubber sheet, and it's got to do with gravity. So I look forward to hearing from you, Adriana.
Yes, thank you. Good morning to all. I'm going to share my presentation. So good morning, I'm Adriana Postiglione. I'm a postdoc researcher at the Department of Mathematics and Physics of Roma Tre University. I work on physics education. And today I want to present a project about the possibility to make people experience gravity with a rubber sheet using a DIY low-cost educational kit that we developed. Our starting idea was the necessity of making people experience gravity with their hands, so in an interactive and fun way at home, possibly. And in that way, they could experience fascinating phenomena like black holes, gravitational waves, space exploration. So all things that they can heard about in newspapers, but they can explore with their hands. In order to do so, we developed a manual, an open access manual that is called Experience Gravity with a Rubber Sheet Guidelines and Tricks. We wrote it both in Italian and in English in order to reach a wider audience, and you can download it freely with this QR code. And this manual wants to guide everybody, so children, students, but also adults, to explore different phenomena related to gravity using poor materials like a liquid sheet and some marbles. So first of all, in the manual, you will find the instruction to build a space-time structure using just a hula hoop, 6 wooden slats, and a liquid sheet. And then you will find the detailed guidelines in order to simulate different phenomena related to gravity. For example, we describe how to best choose the weight to use, or to how to place them on the liquid sheet, how to throw the marble on the sheet. And in this way, you will visualize the way in which planets orbit the sun, for example, so the Kepler's laws. But also you will explore more fascinating phenomena like black holes and discover why they are so exotic, so fascinating. And we can also try to make you explore different phenomena described by general relativity, like gravitational waves or gravitational lenses. At the Department of Mathematics and Physics of Roma Tre University, we have a bigger version of the space-time structure that we propose in this manual. And we use it a lot of times with people of all ages, students, children, and we have always a lot of fun with it. We know that this kind of activity can engage people so that they have fun and they also learn how gravity works. So if you want to have more information about the activities that we carried on during these years with our structure, or more information about the manual, I will be glad to answer all your questions. In the meantime, I invite you to download the manual with this QR code, or check out the scientific papers that we wrote about the project. Moreover, if you are a teacher, or if you have a network of teachers or people that you think can be interested in this project, please contact us, me and my colleague, so that we can collaborate. So thank you for your attention.
Oh, Adriana, thank you so much for sharing that. Something practical, useful, looks like great fun, as well as educational and interactive. So thank you very much for that. So our final speaker this morning or today, depending on where you are in the world, is Sophie Uyoga, also from Kenya. And Sophie, it's over to you.
Thank you very much. I hope you can hear me clearly. I'll briefly share with you the project that I did on sickle cell disease, essentially telling the patient's perspective. And this disease is actually important because about 0.8% of the children born within Kilifi suffer from this disease. Our group has been running a sickle cell clinic over the last 15 years, and some of these children are now getting to the age whereby they have to give you consent to take part in research activities. And it's during this process that we realize the gap in that the children are actually not as knowledgeable, hence the need to be able to generate something for them to be able to read and understand what it is that they're going through. So the two main challenges is access to knowledge and stigma. And we did this through participation with some of our patients at the clinic and their parents. And essentially the questions in the clouds down there actually, some of the questions that the children and their parents actually asked. And the challenge here is that the parents are also not as knowledgeable, hence are not able to assist their children. So we actually managed to do focus group discussions and in-depth interviews, and the emerging themes that came out of the discussions and the interviews are what we handed over to our developer, who gave us a draft comic book of 4 stories. And when the draft was out, we actually able to invite the children and their parents back, and they were able to review and also give us their input. And then the comic book that we developed was actually used to develop an activity pack for science clubs together with our schools engagement program. And we've been able to actually share the comic book at our local clinic, but also at school activities. We had 2 school activities before COVID, and the photos at the top just show you that how the book reading went, and it was very well received. We have 4 stories. 2 of these stories, the ones on the left, are actually about the community and school life, highlighting things about diagnosis and access to healthcare and how they should handle the condition. The stories on the right are actually real life stories from some of our older patients who have actually gone through high school and actually completed their college. And it also gives the patients a sense of hope, not just a point of information, but also to encourage them that their dreams are actually valid and they can be whoever they want to be. I'll finish by thanking our funders listed at the bottom. Thank you very much.
Sophie, wow, I can imagine that working on a topic like this with a local community cannot always be easy, because it's a disease, and I think it's so interesting to see how you do it and how you use comics. And I can imagine that I would love to know more. And some of the people that you list at the bottom are, of course, some of the big players in science and science engagement in Africa. And I think you and I should definitely talk some more. But for now, if I thank you for sticking to the time. Will you maybe just stop the screen sharing? Okay, thank you. Oh, well, I think you will all agree with me that was a really inspiring session around the world, around many different topics, but bringing together the core of all of these is a passion for engaging with society, making science more accessible, getting public input into science and science decision making. And so before we carry on, and while all these wonderful talks are still fresh in our memories, I'm going to run the quick poll. I just want to make 100% sure. Yeah, I don't see, there was one speaker that didn't join us, but I don't see that person online. So I'm going to run the poll now. I'm going to ask everybody who's currently on the call to vote. And I'm also going to, yeah, so I'm going to launch the poll now. It is, the panelists themselves cannot vote, but everybody who's a delegate, anyone who's attending can vote. I'm not going to share the outcome with all of you today. We'll keep that as a surprise, but it will be announced on the, I think Jenny usually sends out these emails to the PCST mailing list, and also keep an eye out for a repeat of the winning presentations, if you can call it that, a little bit later during the actual conference. So we still have quite a few people who must vote. So I'm just going to wait a little bit longer and make sure that we get fair representation and democracy is working. So if you're a delegate on the school and you haven't voted yet, just think back, who was your favorite presenter? I can see that people have difficulty choosing, and I appreciate that, because I would find it very hard. Fortunately, I don't have to vote, or I can't vote, so I don't have to choose someone, because I would find it really, really hard to do that. I see Barbara also commented it's hard to vote today because all the talks are really inspiring, and I really share your view, Barbara. Thank you for that note. Okay, I'm going to give just a few more seconds, and then we're going to close the poll, and then we're going to go. I see. Okay, so let's stop it there then. Right. Okay. So thank you very, very much for that. And at this stage, we're going to go over to the presentations. I don't think that it is possible for delegates to speak. I think that the speaking is limited to the panelists. So please put your questions in the chat, but preferably in the Q&A, so they're all in one place. I see, Alina, there's just a practical question from Christian answering that you post a link and you could use the chat box for us to tell people where they can find the gifts. And can you also say something about how you think this very, very short format of gifts is really useful for learning? How do you know how, is it really going to work for capturing attention for science communication, especially if you think about more in-depth science communication? Maybe a response from Alina, please.
Yeah, it was a really brilliant question by Christian. I already responded a little bit in the Q&A actually, but just to sum it up a little bit. So there's actually scientific proof that these kind of moving images and especially GIFs, that they generate attention. So there are a lot of really kind of convincing studies on eye tracking and attention spans and also recall memory. So how much people can actually afterwards recall from the content. And it has been quite nicely shown that having these kind of contents in part of your maybe more complex storytelling online can really help to generate attention from different channels. So especially when people don't have this intrinsic motivation to engage with research content, it's kind of a nice, easy exit route to then kind of channel them towards more complex content. The other aspect of animations is that they can really help to visualize complex content in combination with a presentation or a longer in-depth text. So they can just summarize things and make them more accessible.
Fantastic. And I'm sure if people actually want maybe some of that literature, they can get in touch with you. Rita, there's a question to you about the fact that you've interviewed 18 children. Somebody wanted to ask about how many boys and girls in the group and whether you are looking at differences between the perceptions of boys and girls.
No, I have grouped all together. So like I was trying to answer. So the gender balance was nice. Well, there were 7 boys and 11 girls, but that was the group. So in this case, there was a group that I already knew from other projects. But still, like for instance, one of the rules to work with children is to balance the authority. So one adult speaks to at least 2 children. So in this case, there were groups of 2 to 3 children, and they choose they make the groups. I didn't choose the children. Now you and you. And so sometimes there was some sort of a peer pressure, like if one of the girls or the boys said, I like this one, or I don't like this part of the photographs. Could be that other also chose the same photographs for the same reason. So, but I was looking at the raw data, and it didn't seem to I didn't notice this influence. So I have both boys and girls choosing some photograph because of the aesthetics they like or they don't like, and also referring to buildings or flowers the same way, and also in relation to encountering families or friends or go and play. So it doesn't seem to be, but it's tricky, especially with such a small number of children to try to separate the analysis.
Right. Thank you very, very much for that. Sophie, there's a question from you from Jan Reese. He talks about, sickle cell disease being a very serious condition and how people will then respond. He's sure that the comic must be valuable, but he would like to know a little bit more about how people respond to it and how it is received, especially amongst people who have the disease. Do they share it? Do they want copies? How do they use it?
Okay. Thank you very much for that question. We've distributed the comic book through the clinic to the individual participants. So the participant actually gets some comic books to actually share with their family. That's our strategy, so that at least the homestead is actually informed, and the parents also get several copies to give members of their community. The kids are actually super excited about the comic book, and there's a lot of demand for the book. Unfortunately, due to COVID, we've not been able to conduct our outreach activities as we would have wanted to, but we are hoping to do mass distribution during World Sickle Cell Day this year. In terms of getting more copies, that would be subject to availability of further funding. But it's been well received. The kids are actually happy. The parents are actually happy to share it with other parents whose kids look like they have sickle cell disease. Thank you.
Thank you, Sophie. That's useful. So I have a quick question for Emma, who was our first speaker today. Emma, something that you said in your presentation stuck with me, where you said that the game that you've developed can help to make the research project, easy to understand, sort of unpack it. Can you tell us maybe just in a minute or so what you mean, how it actually works, the game?
Yeah, so we developed it with our learning and development colleagues within our organisation. And what we did was we basically did it as a simulation. So you can play as a participant and it takes you through various stages. So for example, in the drug study, it talks about consent and the importance of informed consent. And then it goes through about if you have concerns, you can phone the study doctor if you had a side effect. So it goes through that and just sort of simplifies it, because a lot of the things we had seen were that people got concerned about not really understanding what happens during a clinical research study. So it was just to try and put it forward in a very simple way for them to get an idea of that process.
Okay, thank you very much. So we have a question from the chairperson of PCST, Brian Trench, and I should definitely take this question. So he asks Antonio, the idea of seeing a particle is intriguing. Can you say something about the responses of users to this unusual experience?
Oh, yes. It's fantastic. It's fantastic also for the researcher. The idea to see particle, it's very nice. From our user, we have a lot of attention to the particle. As you see my presentation, we have this simulation software that we use for analyzing also the data. With this software, we can create a particular events. An event can be shown to young people, but also we can show a particular nuclear physics effect that you can show, for example, to a university physics course. This is more help for understanding in a very nice way some physical effect that you have to study, for example, with an histogram or a graph. Thank you very much for your question.
I think that is one of the interesting things that I've personally observed in science communication settings, is that even adults can sometimes, become like, it's the fascination that children have when they experience new things. I recently took a group of quite senior people, professors and deans and so on, to an aquarium, and they were in a class where they were pretended as if they were grade 3s. And it was actually amazing to see how they enjoyed it and how they enjoyed the different tactile experiences of, tasting seawater and touching, seashells and so on, even if they are not children anymore. So I ask all of you, we do have a little bit of time left, and I invite any more questions that the delegates may have. But I asked you before, anyone who wants to respond, you have all come up with innovative approaches to science communication. How do the researchers that you work with, the serious researchers, if I can put it that way, how do they respond? Do you sometimes have trouble convincing them, or are they buying into these new ways of engaging the public? Anyone who wants to respond? Adriana, you can go, you can speak.
Yes, in my case, the astrophysicists that I work with, see the DOI kit and the space-time simulator that we created like a game. So we needed some time to convince them that also there's more than a game, than just a game through which you can have fun, but you can learn more and you can explore gravity and all the different phenomena. So that was my experience.
Okay. Anyone else? Perhaps any one of the speakers? Isabel, yes, please.
Yeah, I can talk from the plant science perspective. I think from my particular point of view is that there is a 50-50 division among researchers. For 50% of them that tend to be more senior and older, they think that the working online, working on social media is a waste of time. And the other 50%, which also includes some seniors, but is mostly the more junior part of the community, they are very engaged and they are getting more engaged with time. And they see the opportunities. It's not only the science communication opportunities, but also the networking. So it's, I think there is somehow a generation shift, and that's the situation in the community I work for.
Mm-hmm. All right, so that's interesting. I think many of us are experiencing that, you know, quite a new appreciation, a new acceptance of the importance and the value of public engagement, but also some ambivalence among some researchers and some sort of persistent resistance here and there, pockets of resistance in a way. But certainly that's one of the reasons why science engagement and science communication is such an exciting field to be in, because it's dynamic and we have to come up with innovative approaches. I think especially during, many of you refer to the impact of the pandemic, forced us to come up with new ways of engaging public audiences. So it's we've got about 8 minutes left before we have to wrap up. I don't see any more questions in the Q&A. Maybe before we wrap up, I can also invite any of the panel members who may have questions. You can speak, you don't have to type it. Who have questions for maybe any of the fellow panelists. Is anything? If not, then my only remaining job will be to thank all of you once again for a fantastic session, and also to remind everybody that all these presentations, the actual materials, but also the session of today will be available via the PCST conference portal. So you can tell friends or colleagues who missed today's session, they can catch up, they can view it later if they registered for the conference, of course. And you can get in touch with any of the speakers via the materials that they've uploaded to the conference platform. So thank you very much. I certainly feel energized and inspired after this session. Keep an eye out for the other sessions that are still left this week and next week. There are many more to come. And I'll see many of you online in these visual sessions, but also in the main conference towards the end of the month. Thank you very, very much, everyone, and goodbye.
Bye.
Bye, thank you.
Thank you, bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye, thank you.
Bye-bye, thank you.